There's a strange financial paradox nobody really talks about. The smartest person in the room is often the one who can't make rent, while the guy who barely passed his classes ends up owning the company. You've probably been told your whole life to study harder, read more, think deeper than everyone else, and that success would eventually catch up to you. But look around. The biggest rewards keep going to people who, on paper, aren't nearly as sharp. Here's the uncomfortable part. Your intelligence was never the problem. What you did with it was. Over 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli watched brilliant men lose everything, while bolder, less clever men grabbed power, money, and influence right out from under them. He figured out something most smart people never do. Knowing isn't the same as moving. The first trap is the research cage. You spot an opportunity, a business idea, an investment, whatever it is, and your brain immediately wants to understand every angle before you take a single step. So you compare options. You study the tax implications. You tweak the plan for the 10th time. It feels responsible. It's actually just procrastination wearing a lab coat. Weeks become months, months become years, and your idea is still sitting in a browser tab. Meanwhile, someone else hears the exact same idea, knows just enough to be dangerous, and starts. Years later, they're miles ahead, not because they were smarter, but because they gave their money and effort more time to compound. Machiavelli said fortune favors the bold over the cautious. Smart people trade time for the feeling of being prepared, and that trade rarely pays off. The second trap is the dignity trap. This one hides behind having standards. Educated people often feel certain work is beneath them. Cold calls, sales, straight up asking someone for money. So they wait for an opportunity that matches their intellect. Years pass. Meanwhile, the person with bills due takes the uncomfortable job, eats the rejection, and learns something in the process how people actually make decisions. That's persuasion. And once you understand persuasion, every room changes because you know how to move people and move money. Avoiding this stuff was never about laziness. It's about being scared of looking inexperienced after spending your whole life being the smart one. Machiavelli put it plainly, leaders who protect their dignity above all else eventually lose to people willing to do what the situation actually requires. Keeping your hands clean protects your ego. It does nothing for your bank account. The third trap is the perfect plan delusion. You build the strategy. You forecast every outcome. Every time you spot a flaw, you delay the launch to fix it. Eventually, you own a beautifully planned business that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, someone with a rougher, unpolished version is already getting real feedback from real customers, already fixing real problems instead of imaginary ones. An unfinished business that exists beats a perfect one that never launches every time. The market doesn't reward theory, it rewards showing up. The fourth trap is neutrality sickness. This is what happens to analytical minds during conflict or big decisions. You can see every angle, every motive, every possible outcome. So every option feels complicated, and you end up choosing nothing. Problems don't go away when you ignore them. They just grow quietly in the dark. Meanwhile, the person who just picks a lane might make a few costly mistakes early, but they recover fast and actually learn something. Machiavelli warned that trying to stay neutral in a conflict usually costs you support from everyone, because standing in the middle means nobody trusts you. Hesitation isn't wisdom. It's paralysis dressed up to look thoughtful. The fifth trap is the compounding cliff. Two people start at the same point. 20 years later, one of them has assets and investments quietly making money while they sleep. The other still relies entirely on a paycheck, despite understanding markets and business theory far better. Knowledge doesn't close that gap. Wealth comes from time plus consistent early action, and there's no way to buy back the years you didn't act. Even Machiavelli, a man who understood power and human nature better than almost anyone in history, died poor in a modest house. Theory doesn't build wealth. Winning arguments means nothing if your account balance says otherwise. The final shift is redirection. You don't need to get less intelligent. You need to point that intelligence at action instead of analysis. Start using your mind to find the next move, not the next flaw. A simple rule: whatever decision you've been sitting on, take one real, measurable step within 24 hours. Send the message, make the call, launch the page. Break big goals into steps so small that not having time stops being an excuse. And do the thing you're avoiding first thing in the morning before your brain has time to talk you out of it. The wealthiest people aren't the ones who think the least. They're the ones who think and move fast. When the decision shows up, they act and let reality sort itself out around them. You don't rise to the level of your intelligence. You fall to the level of your action.